Alright guys, what's up? Paragon Fox here. Welcome to this channel. In this channel, we're going to be reviewing games on Xbox and hopefully in the future, PC. Right now, we're going to start with the series we call Golds of Pass. In this series, we're going to be reviewing games on the Game Pass. Now, these are games that maybe you heard of, maybe you were tempted to download but just didn't do so. Hopefully with these reviews, you're going to be interested enough to download them and give them a chance. Our goal here is for you to fall in love with these games. Well, maybe not fall in love, but actually enjoy these games. They're on the Game Pass. They're available to download. All you have to do is just click and download and maybe have space on your hard drive, right? But let's get started, okay? The first game we're going to be reviewing is Streets of Rage 4. Now, the story. The story for Streets of Rage 4 is nothing out of this world. It's very typical. I don't recommend you download this game if you expect something out of this world, something that you would be like, oh my god, this is incredible. The story, the characters so developed. It's not that type of game. It is a beat 'em up game, so that's not to say beat 'em up games can't have great stories. They can. But this is just like, I don't want to say it's a typical beat 'em up, but it's very generic in a lot of aspects. I have not played the other Streets of Rage games, so I don't know how their stories fare up against this one. If I would have to guess it, I would assume they're around the same, same level story wise. I could be completely mistaken, guys, and if that's the case, do tell me in the comments and I will try to play the other Streets of Rage games. But for this one, the story is very, generic, if you will. I will just say, like one sentence to not spoil the story, which again isn't too much of a spoiler, even if I told you. But once I say this, I think you're gonna have the general idea of what this is. Criminal organization, right? So that's I think that's as much as I could give without you guys actually just discovering the whole story by yourselves. I mean, really, it's just criminal organization. You know, you're obviously the good guys, and that's about it. If you really think that's a spoiler and I just ruined the story for you, that's because that's how in depth the story is. Honestly, you're not here for the story, guys. I'm not gonna say anything else about it. Just don't expect something that's gonna shatter your world. Something that you will be like, wow, this made me think about, so much about the cosmos, about my place in it. It's not that. The good things about the story, I will say, it's a little bit quick paced. It's a little bit quick paced. This game is designed to be not too long, and because of that, the story really just moves at a nice pace. There weren't moments where I'm like, this is dragging on for way too long. There were moments where I said, we went to this part just to waste time. There was at least in that part of the story, there was a purpose for each place how you went. It wasn't like a side quest or something like that. And that might be, some people might say, oh, I like, a little bit of side quests. I like to do extra things that aren't necessary for the story wise. I understand that, but again, this is a short game. It's not too long. In total, with the story and you just in normal difficulty, it's roughly around 4 hours. Now, I don't recommend playing this game in the normal difficulty. I will get to that later. But overall, the story is 4 to maybe 8 hours long if you're playing in a higher difficulty. But I'll get to that in a later point. But again, the story, just a generic story, nothing out of this world. Really, if you're gonna play this game, play it for the mechanics and play it with a friend. I do recommend that. It is co-op, and because again, just have fun with the game. Don't go too depth. Don't be like, what's the meaning of this? What's the meaning of that? Just play and enjoy the game. Okay, so the combat. The combat is one aspect of this game that I feel 50-50 on. Why do I say this? Well, on one hand, it's very simplistic. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Let me explain what I mean by this. You have one button, which is obviously your light attacks, and you have a second button, which basically your heavy slash special attacks. I will explain that in a second. And then you have your ultimate. That's basically all there is. You might be, oh, you can combo your light with your special attacks. You can, but let me explain what special slash heavy attacks are. Your heavy slash special attacks are this ability that you're able to use, which are, like the name says, they're special. For if you notice the blonde guy in the gameplay, his special attacks is that his fist will be on fire and he will do more damage. Right, that's basically for each character in this game. They have some variants of that, not their fists turn on fire, but something like that. Right, they'll do a much more stronger attack. The problem with this is that you lose health when you use these abilities. Not lose health, more like the game says you use your special attack, so to compensate for this, so you just don't keep spamming it, you lose temporary health. In your health bar, it'll turn green a section of your health that you lost because you used a special attack. To gain it back, all you have to do is attack an enemy. Keep your combo going with normal attacks, and that's about it. You'll regain your health that you lost when you use that special attack. Now, the problem with this comes that there is really no need to use special attacks. Sure, there are heavier opponents, stronger opponents that you're tempted to use them or you want to use them on, but if it's not a boss, the light attack slash the normal attack combo that you have will do the job just fine. For the most part, your special attacks are only there for bosses, from what I feel. Now, take in mind that I played on a higher difficulty. So even on a higher difficulty than the normal or standard difficulty, I never felt inclined to waste it on normal enemies. There was no need for it. There was no need for me to accidentally lose health if an enemy hit me while I was trying to regain the temporary health I lost from the special ability. Because if the enemy hits you, you lose the health that you used up for the special attack. You aren't able to gain that health back. So I just never found the need to use it only against bosses, so I could break their combos or stun them. You might be saying, "Oh, there you go. You could stun the enemy." That's not the case. The normal attack or the light attack combo that you have does the same thing. It'll automatically stun the enemy. So there's really no need for you to go out of your way to use special attacks. Now, sure, there may quick work of smaller enemies, normal enemies, or a little bit, or some of the heavier enemies that you see, but for the most part, there's really no need to use them. This is what I mean where it's simplistic. Sure, you could combo them with your light attack combo, to make a much more greater output. Sure, you'll have much more of your combo, which is another big important thing in this game. But for the most part, there's really no need, from what I feel. This is where I say it might be a bad thing because if you're looking for like maybe the combat, if you felt when you saw this game that the combat system was going to be really good, you'll be able to combo off correctly, you have different combos. It's not the case. You have basically your light attack combos, which will do the work for the majority of enemies, and then you have your heavy attack or special attack combos. And then your special, really the only moment you'll use them is for a boss too. Your ultimate move. There's really no need to use them against a group of enemies. Even if you're gonna die, I recommend you die instead of using them. Now you might be making the perfect run. You're doing the perfect run on this game. Maybe then, but even then, it's just not worth it. Now this does bring a couple of positives to this game, which means you'll be able to understand the combat system very easily and very quickly. There's really not much to learn. The hardest thing I think that I had with this game was basically the grab mechanic, which I think was better than I expected. You could grab an enemy and jump over them. You could grab an enemy and punch them. You could grab an enemy and just slam them to the floor. So for the most part, that was pretty good. Each character has a different style of grabbing, punching, or throwing the opponent. For the most part, it works the same. And I think that was the most complicated thing it took me to learn. Besides that, the combat system, I think it's solid. It's not, something that you're gonna have a difficulty with. But if you're looking for that very interesting combat system, a lot of ways to combo your moves, you're not gonna find it. You're just not gonna find it, and that's a sad thing. I know you guys are probably listening to this. Like I just hear a lot of not positive thing. What's so good about this game? And we'll get that in the next section of this review. But just keep in mind, the combat is solid. It's nothing bad, but it's you desire more, especially if you like beat 'em up games, right? But if you never tried a beat 'em up game, maybe you're one of those younger audience, maybe you never tried it, and you're like, I want to get into one. I've seen the classic ones; they look very good. This is an excellent, excellent game to start with because it's very simple, and you'll understand the general way, the general feel of beat 'em up games. Okay, so the enemies, one of our last points to look at. The enemies in general for this game is quite good. You'll start with enemies, your typical enemies, your street thugs, but as you go on, you'll fight different types of enemies in different locations. Now, by the end of the game, you'll be fighting all of them in every single stage. I think in the last two stages, you will fight them constantly, the ones you saw at the beginning. Now, this isn't bad. This is quite good because sometimes in a lot of beat 'em ups or in a lot of other games, the starter enemies will just get thrown out by the end of the game because you're fighting different versions of those starting enemies, or they'll just forgotten completely. In this game, it's not like that. You will fight different versions of them. What do I mean by this? Basically, their color scheme. The starting enemies will just have different colored pants, different colored shirts, but that means how difficult they are. That means how often they could attack or how much health they have. They might be tankier than the starter enemies. Just because they have a different color. Apparently, color in this game is gives you a buff in health. Apparently, but overall, the enemies are quite enjoyable. The bosses are quite unique in a lot of aspects. I said this game was very generic story wise, but the enemies overall they're quite unique, except for the final two bosses. I when I was playing with my friend, I called out what was going to happen with them, like what they were going to do. I got it right. So the last two bosses are kind of a little bit disappointing. But overall, quite enjoyable. I like the enemies. Each of them were unique. Each of them fought differently. There's one boss which I recommend you guys will have. I recommend you fight over again because he's quite fun to fight with, and he reminds me of a certain artist. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, overall the enemies, I will give it a very good rating. I think it's one of their strongest points for this game. Overall, I think this game deserves a 3.5 out of 5. Now, why does it get such a high rating even though I said some of its weakest points or a little bit of negative things about it? Because at the end of the day, this is a great game if you want to play with a friend. It is co op, online co op. I think it's also couch co op. I might be mistaken on that. But it's really fun with a friend. I recommend that if you're playing with a friend, play it on a higher difficulty than the standard or normal, because it really doesn't give the game any justice. If you have maybe 4 to 5 hours to kill by yourself, and you're just looking for a quick game to finish, get some achievements really quick, definitely play this game on standard. And by the time you're done with the game, the 5 4 hours will be over, and go do whatever else you have to do. But if you want to have a fun little game to play with one of your friends, definitely try this game out. It's co-op. I can't say too many bad things about it because it's not that it was bad game. It was more that the mechanics need a little bit more polishing. And by what I mean by that is that it just needs a little oomph. It gives it a little extra flavor for it to be actually good. Overall, I hope you guys pick up Streets of Rage 4 on the Game Pass. Again, just download it. It's right there. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to have fun with it. Especially, like I said again, if you're going to play with a friend. So that would be all for this review, guys. If you have any other games you want me to review on the Game Pass, please leave it on the in the comment section and please subscribe. We're just starting out this channel. Every subscriber helps so far. So please, I know I shouldn't be begging for subscribers when I'm so small, but it would really mean the world for me. And thank you guys. See you next time.